Welcome, dear friend, to this quiet corner we have set aside for you, and thank you with a warmth that we hope you can feel for choosing to spend this peaceful part of your day with us. We have prepared a gentle story, one spun from silence and soft light, with the single heartfelt purpose of serving as a comforting companion as you journey toward a deep and restorative night's slumber. If, as you settle into the soft earth of our tale, you find a measure of peace you wish to see more of, we would be so grateful if you would, just before you set your device aside, like this story and subscribe to our channel. For your simple act of kindness helps us to grow these quiet gardens for others. Before we open the door to the conservatory, where the air is thick with the scent of damp earth and honeyed blossoms, we shall first take a moment to breathe together, settling body and mind. Now, let us find that perfect sense of ease, nestling into our beds as if we were a smooth, precious seed being tucked into warm, rich soil. Allow your body the simple kindness of sinking deeply into your mattress, feeling how completely it supports you, letting every muscle feel held and secure. Pull your blankets up, a soft and cozy comfort, and let your pillow be a perfect cradle for your head, a place of ultimate rest. This is your time, a quiet moment carved out just for you, where the day's hurried thoughts are invited to gently unfurl and drift away, leaving behind a peaceful stillness in your heart, as profound as the ancient silence within the conservatory walls. Let us share a slow, calming breath together, one that mirrors the languid pulse of the awakening seeds. Gently, without any effort at all, draw the air in through your nose, imagining it as a soft, silvery light, filling you from your toes to the top of your head with a gentle, cleansing peace. Then release it softly through your mouth, a warm and almost silent sigh of relief. With each easy breath, feel your body softening, much like clay being warmed by a gentle hand, releasing any little points of tension you may have been holding unaware. Imagine the comforting scent of the conservatory, the rich fragrance of clean earth, the delicate sweetness of unseen flowers, and the faintest hint of warm spice, all mingling to soothe your senses and quiet the world outside. And if, dear one, your thoughts should begin to drift and wander like little dust motes dancing in a soft sunbeam, that is perfectly all right. It is the way of things. Simply notice them with a gentle curiosity you might grant a passing cloud. And then, with the utmost kindness to yourself, guide your attention back to the simple, steady rhythm of your own breath, or to the quiet sound of my voice. There is nothing more for you to do now but listen and allow the story to be a gentle vessel carrying you softly toward the deep and dreamless sleep you so richly deserve. Feel the hum of the ancient soil, a vibration of pure contentment that coaxes your own body into a state of profound rest. Now, Let our quiet journey begin. Chapter 1. The Conservatory Door. It is a peculiar truth that the quietest places are often found not by searching, but by a kind of gentle, aimless wandering. And so it was for Corin, who, after a long day of walking paths that seemed to draw themselves upon the hillsides, came upon a door where no door ought to have been. It was set deep into the green slope of a low, rolling hill, its frame made of a dark, smooth stone that seemed to drink the soft afternoon light, and its wood was a silvery gray, weathered by seasons that had left no other mark upon the land. There was no path leading to it, no sign of any hand that had placed it there, yet it did not feel unwelcoming. Indeed, from the small, almost imperceptible gap at its base, Corin could feel a soft current of air carrying a gentle and inexplicable warmth. It was this warmth, a quiet invitation against the cool breeze of the open hills, that prompted Corin to reach out. The stone of the frame was not cold as one might expect, but held a pleasant living heat, like a sun-warmed river rock, smooth and grounding beneath the fingertips. The door itself, however, offered a different texture entirely. Its weathered wood was a tapestry of shallow grooves and soft splinters, smoothed by countless rains. Yet it yielded to the slightest pressure with a soft, groaning sigh, the sound of ancient wood remembering its purpose. Corin pushed it open just enough to slip through, and the door swung silently closed behind, its soft click seeming less like a lock and more like a final contented exhalation. The world inside was one of profound and sudden calm. The air, which had been crisp and clear outside, was now soft and close, thick with a humidity that felt like a warm, comforting blanket on the skin. And the scent was extraordinary, a complex and yet perfectly harmonious blend that spoke of deep, living things. First was the rich, clean smell of freshly turned damp earth, a grounding and ancient fragrance that seemed to settle the very bones. Woven through it was a delicate sweetness, the scent of a flower that blooms only in the deepest part of the night, mingled with a surprising and deeply comforting aroma that was very much like freshly baked bread with a hint of cinnamon. Corin's eyes, adjusting from the open sky, took a moment to understand the space. It was vast and circular, far larger than the small hill could possibly contain, a gentle wonder that felt as natural as breathing. Above, a high dome of clouded glass panes muted the sky's light into a single soft, edgeless glow that illuminated everything with a kind of peaceful pearlescence. There were no shadows here, only different degrees of gentle light. The effect was immediately calming, hushing the busy parts of the mind and inviting a quiet, simple state of observation. It was a place designed for stillness. The silence, too, was a physical presence. It was not an empty silence, but a full one, rich and deep, woven from the absence of wind and the clamor of the outside world. It was a silence that you could feel resting on your shoulders, a gentle, pleasant weight that encouraged them to soften and release. Yet, it was not absolute. After a moment of standing perfectly still, Corin began to hear it, the slow, singular, and rhythmic drip of water, a single clear note falling into a distant pool, creating a gentle, meditative cadence that seemed to be the very heartbeat of this tranquil place. Corin took a slow, deliberate step forward, the sole of their worn boot making a soft, whispery sound on the flagstone floor. The stones themselves were smooth and cool, a pleasant contrast to the warmth of the air, and were laid in a spiraling pattern that drew the eye inward toward the center of the vast chamber. All around, arranged in concentric circles, were low, wide beds of dark, impossibly rich-looking soil. From this soil rose countless terracotta pots of all sizes, each one looking ancient and well-loved, their surfaces holding the faint, clean scent of fired clay. Looking more closely at the nearest bed of soil, Corin saw that most of the pots held nothing but the dark earth itself, or perhaps nestled just below the surface, a single smooth object that looked more like a polished stone or a sea-worn piece of wood than any seed they had ever known. There were no leaves, no stems, no flowers in this great waiting garden. It was a place of deep and patient slumber, a conservatory not for things that grew, but perhaps for things that were dreaming of growing. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by the gentle warmth, the comforting sense, and the soft, dripping pulse of the water, Corin felt a profound sense of arrival. It was a feeling of finding a place that one had not even known they were seeking, a sanctuary of such perfect and unassuming peace that the weary world outside simply fell away, becoming a distant, half-forgotten memory. Corin drew in a long, slow breath of the sweet, earthy air and felt a lifetime of travel and quiet searching settle into a single point of deep, untroubled calm. Chapter 2: The Caretaker and the Clay. As Corin's senses slowly absorbed the profound peace of the conservatory, a slight movement near the chamber's center caught their eye. It was a figure, moving with such a slow and deliberate grace that they seemed almost a part of the environment itself, like a tree gently swaying where there was no breeze. This, Corin surmised, must be the caretaker of this impossible garden. The figure, who Corin would soon know as Wren, was bent over one of all the low beds of soil, holding a small copper mitre that caught the diffused light in a soft rosy glint. A fine, shimmering mist settled weightlessly upon the dark earth, leaving tiny jewels of moisture that sparkled for a moment before being absorbed. Wren moved without hurry, their every action imbued with a deep and gentle purpose. They wore simple, loose-fitting clothes the color of dried lavender, and their bare feet made no sound on the smooth stone floor. As they straightened up and turned, their face held a look of such placid contentment that it seemed a reflection of the conservatory itself. There was no surprise in their eyes upon seeing Corin, only a quiet, welcoming acceptance, as if a visitor was not an interruption, but simply another natural element finding its way into the garden's gentle ecosystem. Wren offered a soft smile and a slow nod, an entire welcome conveyed in a single peaceful gesture. Wren beckoned Corin closer with a gentle curl of their fingers. Their voice, when they finally spoke, was as soft as the air, a low murmur that was less a sound and more a texture in the quiet. "You have found a quiet place," they said, and it was a statement of fact, not a question. "Come, the tea is warm." Wren led Corin toward a small, secluded alcove set against the far wall, where two simple wooden chairs and a low table were waiting, as if they had always been expecting a guest. The wood of the chairs was worn impossibly smooth and felt warm and yielding to the touch. On the table sat a small dark clay teapot, steam rising from its spout in a slow, hypnotic curl. The scent emanating from it was wonderfully comforting, a blend of sweet cinnamon, chamomile, and something else, something warm and nutty. Wren poured the pale golden liquid into two small handleless cups, the sound of the tea filling the pottery a soft, trickling whisper. The cup felt warm and solid in Corin's hands, a grounding point of gentle heat. The first sip was a revelation, a liquid warmth that tasted of calm itself, spreading through Corin's chest and soothing muscles they hadn't realized were tense. It was a taste of pure, unhurried comfort. As they sipped in companionable silence, a silence that felt as comfortable as the chairs they sat in, Wren spoke again, their gaze drifting over the rows of sleeping seeds. "They do not like to be rushed," Wren murmured, their voice a gentle hum. "The world outside hurries. It demands and pushes. But here," they paused, gesturing with one hand to the silent pots. "Here we listen. We wait. The seeds awaken not to our will, but to our peace. They drink the quiet." It was a simple and profound explanation, a piece of wisdom that settled into Corin's heart as gently as the tea settled in their stomach. Corin's gaze followed Wren's, looking out over the endless circles of terracotta pots. Now they saw them not as empty, but as full of potential, of a slow and patient life, unfolding at a pace the world had long forgotten. Each pot seemed to hold a promise of some small, gentle magic. Wren pointed to a particularly smooth, dark gray seed resting in a nearby pot. "This one," Wren whispered, "has been sleeping for an age. It dreams of lavender light and the scent of honeyed milk, but it will only share its dream when it feels utterly safe." After the tea was finished, Wren rose and returned to their gentle work, and Corin felt a quiet desire to help, not from a sense of obligation, but from a wish to be part of the conservatory's slow, peaceful rhythm. Wren handed Corin a soft, clean cloth and a small bowl of warm water. The task was simple, to gently wipe the dust from the terracotta pots. As Corin worked, the feel of the damp, soft cloth against the warm, slightly rough texture of the fired clay was deeply satisfying. It was a simple, repetitive motion that required no thought, only a gentle presence. With each pot that was cleaned, Corin felt a little more of the world's frantic pace slough away, replaced by the conservatory's deep, resonant calm. The work was not labor. It was a meditation. The scent of damp clay rose to meet them, a clean and ancient smell. And in the quiet, shared activity, a gentle bond was formed with Wren, a companionship that needed no words, built entirely on the mutual appreciation for the slow, quiet, and gentle way of things in this remarkable hidden sanctuary. Chapter 3. The First Glimmer. Days folded one into the next as gently as petals closing at dusk. In the Somnolent Conservatory, time was not a line, but a circle, measured only by the slow breathing of the earth and the rhythmic drip of water from the central font. Corin's world shrank to the limits of the glass dome, and within that peaceful boundary, it expanded into an infinity of subtle sensations. The weariness that had settled deep in Corin's bones, a relic of countless miles walked, began to soften and dissolve, washed away by the tides of profound quiet. The primary texture of these days was one of gentle, purposeful slowness, of simply being. Corin learned the simple meditative rhythms of the conservatory. Mornings were for polishing the countless panes of the glass dome that were within reach, using a soft cloth and a gentle circular motion that felt like polishing the sky itself. The texture of the cool, smooth glass under the cloth was a constant calming presence. Afternoons were often spent with Wren, not in conversation, but in shared quiet tasks, sorting smooth, cool stones by size and color, or turning the rich, dark soil with small wooden tools, the scent of the living earth rising up, smelling of clean rain and ancient patience. It was during one of these slow, peaceful afternoons that the first small miracle occurred. Corin was sitting on a low wooden stool, gently wiping the fine layer of dust from a row of small, unassuming pots, the soft friction of the cloth a whisper in the immense quiet. Wren was nearby, humming a low, wordless tune that seemed to be the very melody of contentment. Corin's attention was on a particular pot containing a single seed, a smooth gray oval, no larger than a thumbnail, the very one Wren had pointed out days before. It looked like any other inanimate pebble, cool and still. But then a change. It began not as something seen, but as something felt, a subtle, low-frequency vibration that seemed to emanate from the pot, a hum so deep and gentle it was felt more in the chest than heard with the ears. Corin's hand stilled on the pot's warm, curved surface, their breath caught, not in shock, but in quiet awe. And as they watched, holding perfectly still, a soft, internal pulse of light emanated from the very center of the gray seed. It was a pale, ethereal lavender, so faint at first that it could have been a trick of the eye, a mere ghost of a color. The light pulsed with a slow, steady rhythm like a sleeping heart. With each soft wave of lavender glow, the light would grow infinitesimally stronger, filling the small seed with a gentle luminescence before receding back into its core. It was a sight of such delicate and profound wonder that it seemed to belong to the world of dreams. Corin did not dare to move, did not even dare to breathe too deeply, for fear of disturbing the fragile magic unfolding before them. They simply watched, their heart seeming to slow to match the pulse of the light. Then came the scent. It unfurled into the warm air as subtly as the light had appeared, a fragrance so delicate it was almost impossible to name. It was the sweet, comforting scent of warm, honeyed milk, with a faint, clean undertone of night-blooming jasmine. The fragrance did not announce itself, but simply arrived, wrapping around Corin in a soft, invisible blanket of pure, calming aroma. It was a scent that spoke of safety, of deep rest, and of gentle kindness. And finally, the sound. Just as the fragrance reached its gentle peak, a single resonant note chimed from the seed. It was not a sharp sound, but a soft, round one, like a tiny silver bell struck with a mallet of pure air. The note hung in the quiet conservatory for a long, beautiful moment, its pure tone seeming to polish the very silence around it before it slowly, gently faded away into nothing, leaving behind only the memory of its perfect, simple beauty. Wren had stopped humming and was watching with a soft, knowing smile. They placed a gentle hand on Corin's shoulder, the touch light and reassuring. There were no words needed. They had shared in the witnessing of this small sacred event, the first awakening. Corin looked from the gently pulsing seed to the vast, silent conservatory around them, now understanding it not as a place of slumber, but as a nursery for quiet miracles, a sanctuary where the price of admission was simply, well, patience, and the reward was a glimpse into the slow, wondrous, and deeply peaceful heart of the world. Chapter 4. The Silent Bloom. The glimmer of lavender light was a promise, and in the days that followed, the conservatory began to gently, quietly keep it. The awakening was not a sudden chorus, but a slow, spreading wave of peace. As one by one, other seeds began to stir from their ancient slumber. It was as if the courage of the first small seed had whispered to the others through the empathic soil, telling them that it was safe to share their gentle dreams. The deep, resonant hum that Corin had first felt in a single pot now seemed to be a constant low thrum beneath the stone floor, a soft vibration of contentment that was the conservatory's very soul made tangible. A seed, like a piece of smoothed, pale driftwood, began to emit a soft, creamy white light, its pulse as slow and steady as a sleeping breath. Its awakening was accompanied by a fragrance of clean linen and warm vanilla, a scent of pure and simple comfort. Nearby, a small, perfectly round seed, the color of a robin's egg, began to glow with a soft aquatic blue. Its light was cool and serene, and it released a scent reminiscent of fresh rain on cool stones, clean and deeply refreshing. The individual notes of the first chiming seed were soon joined by others, each with its own unique tone, creating a soft, unhurried, and ever-changing carillon that never became loud, but simply enriched the deep silence. Corin's days were now spent in a state of quiet and constant wonder. Their simple tasks continued, but they were now performed within a living tapestry of soft, pulsing light. Polishing the glass dome in the morning meant watching the gentle glows from below reflect and dance on the curved panes, creating a soft, shifting mosaic of pale pinks, gentle blues, and warm whites. The light was never bright, never jarring. It was always as soft as a watercolor painting, the colors bleeding gently one into the other, a visual lullaby. There was no need for conversation. Often Corin and Wren would sit together in the two wooden chairs, sipping warm, nutty tea, and simply watch the silent bloom unfold. The air itself felt different now, thick and velvety with the mingled calming fragrances. The scent of honeyed milk from the first seed now wove together with the smell of vanilla, of clean rain, and a new scent from a tiny rose-colored seed. The delicate fragrance of wild strawberries warmed by a gentle sun. To breathe the air was to inhale peace, to feel it settle deep within the lungs, a balm for the spirit. Corin found a favorite spot on a low, wide stone bench near the central font, where the rhythmic drip of water provided a constant meditative focus. The stone of the bench was always pleasantly cool, yet a gentle warmth seemed to rise from the soil beds on either side, creating a perfect equilibrium of sensation. From here, they could observe the entire gentle spectacle, the interplay of light, the soft chiming, the symphony of calming scents. It all washed over Corin in gentle waves, quieting the last murmurs of the thinking mind and leaving only a state of pure, blissful presence. In this deep state of relaxation, Corin began to notice even subtler details. They noticed the way the soft, pulsing light from a nearby seed cast slowly moving patterns on the dark, rich soil, like watching the tide come in on a shore of night. They noticed the tiny, iridescent insects that sometimes crawled out from the soil, their carapaces gleaming with all the soft colors of the glowing seeds. They were slow-moving, peaceful creatures, part of the conservatory's gentle life, and they moved with the same unhurried grace as Wren. The feeling of being held, which Corin had first felt from the humid air, was now a constant state. The gentle, resonant hum from the earth, the soft weight of the fragrant air, the lulling visual of the pulsing lights, and the steady, dripping cadence of the water all combined to create an immersive sensory environment that was profoundly restorative. Corin's breathing had long since slowed to match the conservatory's rhythm. Their shoulders were always soft, their brow always smooth. They were not just in the conservatory, they were becoming part of it, absorbing its ancient peace as deeply as the soil absorbed the morning mist. The silent bloom was not a destination but a process, a continuous, gentle unfolding. It asked nothing of its witness but to be present, to be quiet, and to be open. And in that simple act of being, Corin felt a sense of peace, so complete and so profound that it felt like coming home to a place within themselves they had never known existed, a place as quiet, as safe, and as wondrous as the garden of gently glowing seeds. Chapter 5. The Gift of Stillness. The Somnolent Conservatory now existed in a state of perpetual gentle twilight, illuminated not by the sky above, but by the soft, living light from within. The dome of clouded glass no longer filtered the sun, but instead reflected the tender internal glow of the awakened seeds, turning the entire space into a vast, enclosed firmament of soft, earthbound stars. Pale lavenders, creamy whites, gentle pinks, and serene blues pulsed in a slow, harmonious rhythm, their mingled light creating a sanctuary of profound and unbroken tranquility. The air was a treasure, thick and sweet, with the symphony of calming fragrances, a gentle balm that soothed with every effortless breath. Corin moved through this gentle world not as a visitor, but as a resident of its peace. The feeling of weariness was a distant memory, a story belonging to someone else. In its place was a deep, abiding stillness, a quietude that had settled not just in their mind, but in the very marrow of their bones. The constant low hum of the soil was now as familiar and comforting as their own heartbeat. They had absorbed the conservatory's gift, and it had, in its slow, patient way, remade them in its image of calm. There were no more tasks to be done, for in truth there never had been. The polishing and the sorting had been gentle invitations, ways to attune the hands and the heart to the conservatory's languid pace. Now, Corin's primary activity was simply being. They would spend long, blissful periods lying on a bed of soft, cool moss that grew near the central font, its texture like the finest velvet against their skin. From there, they would watch the slow dance of the dust motes in the colored light, each one a tiny shimmering world drifting in a sea of peace. Wren remained a figure of serene constancy, their soft smile a permanent fixture in the gentle landscape. Their interactions were now entirely wordless, a shared glance across the glowing chamber, a mutual nod of deep contentment. They would sometimes sit together, not even drinking tea, but simply sharing the quiet, breathing in the fragrant air, their companionship, a silent, comfortable harmony. The deepest bonds, Corin had come to understand, are often those woven from shared silence rather than shared words. One day, Corin found themselves standing once more before the silvery weathered door that led to the world outside. They placed a hand upon its smooth, cool wood, feeling not an urge to leave, but a simple, gentle curiosity. They knew with a certainty that was as calm as it was absolute that the door was not locked. They could step through it at any moment and return to the world of open skies and rushing winds. But the thought held no urgency, no pull of desire. The peace they had found here was no longer confined by the stone walls and glass dome. Corin realized that the conservatory's truest gift was not the sanctuary itself, but the stillness it had nurtured within them. It was a seed of quiet that had been planted and gently tended, a seed that had now bloomed into a permanent internal garden. They could carry this profound calm with them, a portable sanctuary that would live behind their eyes and in the steady rhythm of their heart. The low hum of the soil, the scent of honeyed milk, the vision of the soft pulsing lavender light, these were now part of their own inner landscape. With a soft, contented sigh, Corin turned away from the door and walked back toward the center of the conservatory. They settled onto their favorite spot on the cool stone bench, feeling the pleasant warmth from the soil on either side. They closed their eyes, not to sleep, but to simply experience the world through their other senses. The gentle weight of the warm air, the complex and beautiful fragrance of the silent bloom, the soft, resonant chimes, and the steady, eternal drip of the water. They felt a profound gratitude, a gentle wave of thankfulness for the aimless path that had led them to that door, for the quiet caretaker who tended dreams, and for the slow, patient magic of the ancient seeds. There was no need to leave, but also no need to stay forever. The conservatory had given them everything it had to offer, and it was a gift that could never be lost. In the heart of the glowing, humming, fragrant peace, Corin drew in one last, long, slow breath and felt themselves finally and completely at rest.